All right, welcome to the fourth and final game of the evening. Um, the one that you've probably been waiting for. Certainly the mouse of the moment in Mina the Hollower. Um, right, so I suppose first thing is first. Um, we actually talked to a couple of the developers from Yacht Club about Mina the Hollower very extensively, actually.
Mhm.
Or a bit about as much as we could, given that that particular interview was done about a week before the game launched. So there were some aspects that could not be covered either by NDA or just not gotten there. So still, it is a 90-minute interview filled with um, all sorts of anecdotes and thought processes behind the creation of this game. And in case you've been not necessarily under a rock, like it's not Silk Song levels of hype. I will certainly exceed to that. But to say that Mina the Hollower is just another indie title is also inaccurate. I do believe I brought this up during the interview because they did mention that they were about as nervous as when they released Shovel Knight back in the day. But the thing is,
Mhm.
um, they have an advantage now that they did not have during the Shovel Knight era because they are the developers, publishers, creators of Shovel Knight.
Mhm.
They have the legacy of Shovel Knight behind it.
Mhm.
And you can argue about whether or not they've squandered it or not. Um, I've certainly heard some convincing stuff for and against. Um, they still have a highly successful, especially for an indie company, franchise behind them. And now they are moving to other pasture. And that definitely, there's definitely the weight of, this isn't more Shovel Knight. But the thing is, we got more Shovel Knight in the intro. It's just not a lot of people played though.
Mhm.
Shovel Knight Dig, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, spin-offs, sure, but there's still Shovel Knight. And they're flat out disregarded in the narrative that's going on. Maybe unfairly so, but this is the fate of spin-off and such.
Mhm.
Say nothing of Cyber Shadow, which fair enough was only a Yacht Club published title, but all the conversation that's been going on right now is, this is the follow up to Shovel Knight. And it's not completely undue because this is the first, completely Yacht Club developed game since King of Cards, which was 7 years ago at this point. So, um, lot of lot of space in between that time. And the question is, or at least one of the questions is, was that time well spent? Um, Certainly a lot of people have been answering this, and my own equivocation lines up with that, and that's a emphatic yes. Like, dear God, um, I'll be honest. This is one of the starkest cases of scope creep I have encountered in a good long while.
And the devs even know it.
Like when I first got the review guide that said this was a 25 to 30 hour title,
Mhm.
um, I was actually quite shocked at that
Mm.
initially. Um, because the expectation wasn't there. At least not from the hype site. Yeah, this game had spent 7 years in production, but you know, usually that's a games are hard to make perspective, AAA perspective. Even on our own show, day in, day out, week in, week out, we get people who tell us, this was supposed to take 6 months, but it ended up taking 3 years.
Yeah.
And that is definitely a case here. Bloomberg very famously covered the reasons why this game has taken as long as it did, and that is our old friend scope creep. But you can feel it in the detail. Indeed, Yacht Club came out with their own, how big this game is, just how much stuff is stuffed into it. So yeah, honestly, 25 to 30 is being generous, and that's main line questing stuff. Because absolutely, this game can clock into 50 hours plus, maybe as much as 100. If you're going for everything, I suppose that also does include. Yes, it has a new game plus. No, I did not engage in that. So you can also speed this up because of all of the accessibility option, which has been another surprising bone of contention. Well, I guess it's surprising if you don't pay attention to the narratives that quote unquote gamers latch on to. It's a subset of the Dark Souls conversation that's been, difficulty.
Yeah.
Just in this case, I don't know. People are upset that these exist because it makes the game less difficult. And they're right there.
Those people who can go
You
suck a
don't
pound
have
of
to
dick.
unlock it. You don't have to, do anything. I'm just this is modern gaming, people. Accessibility options are, not as, quite frankly, not as common as they should be,
Mm-hmm.
but they are getting more and more common in various formats. And yeah, Mina the Hollower may be pushing it more than any other game before it. Hard to say because, um, a lot of Sony first party titles have very excellent accessibility options.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's about 200 of them that, and even though they're called accessibility options, there are, um,
It can also make it
there
accessible
are,
to people who want it to be harder.
Mm-hmm.
yes, thank you. I'm trying to, option,
Yeah. Challenge
selection.
modifiers as
Like,
well, however you want to
if you want
phrase
to
it.
take more damage, for example, you can do that. Basically, you can adjust the game as you want it. But very clearly, a lot of people are not doing that for one reason or another because, well, the difficulty conversations definitely come up over this title. Not surprising in the least. At least if you play it by the rules that it lays out. Because, yeah, not gonna lie, this is a difficult game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I do think that the font of false expectations is showing itself a little here. To wit, what's the game that everybody's been comparing it to, at least in the lead up? Zelda. Specifically Link's Awakening, because, well, look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game in the ostensible mode of Game Boy Color titles, even though it looks a lot better than any actual Game Boy Color game.
Yeah.
Um,
Even talking to the devs, they
Yeah, the
even
background color palettes especially are quite elaborate.
yeah.
yeah,
Like the Game Boy
yeah,
Color can do
like
that, but not for the whole screen
And
all the time.
and going all the way back to the original Strike the Earth Shovel Knight, Yacht Club has definitely said that they are inspired by the classics, but they don't feel bound by them, or they don't want to be bound by the rule. Um, and that's actually very good, because in spite of its graphics, in spite of its origins, this is actually a very modern title in a great deal of ways. Honestly, I think the biggest attraction um, is the four-way combat. Like, and friend of the other show, the Metroid Guru, postulated that that was because the game was so long in development. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the program aligning up, so I could tell him, no, the developers very cognitively designed it that way. It's in the interview. They very much said that the four-way directionality is something that they wanted to do. It isn't like what they call the corpse running, that's a holdover from the um, older Dark Souls titles. And also, in terms of corpse running, Dark Souls kind of missed the point of corpse running. It's Demon Souls that made it matter, but that's beyond the scope of this review. Um, but yeah, this game is now rightfully being aligned much more with actual Dark Souls. Um, Maybe not so much in combat, because um, combat does not feel like, at least what we stereotype Dark Souls combat to be, very slow, very methodical, very elaborate combat. And yeah, Dark Souls has that, but what a lot of games miss is Dark Souls is a build game. So you can actually build agility. You can build around magic. You don't have to do the slow, knight, tanky, elaborate block, parry, dodge, what have you. Um, but yeah, the combat of Mina the Hollower is definitely not going for that. Once again, the devs, postulated on our show that they were going for top-down Castlevania, and it definitely has more of that rhythm. Um, because the main weapon, the one that's on all of the Mina art, is the Night Rain, the chain whip, and does seem to be the favorite of players. I'm not sure if there's any statistics clocking the weapon usage, but people are choosing the whip a great deal because of the rain. Though Hammer has its fan, one of which was one of the devs that we had on the program.
Yeah,
Um,
you have ultimately, I think, 5 options, of which 3 are available to start
yeah.
with. So
No, you have 3 options to start with. You will get 5 options through the game.
that's what I
You
said.
get the whip. No, you said 5 options to start with.
No, I said
It's
there are 5
3 to start.
options. You get 3 to start with.
Oh, okay. I misheard that. But yeah, you've got the whip, you've got the hammer, you've also got the dagger. I'll be honest, I found the daggers to be useless. Yes, they are quick. They are very much the quick option, but they are so useless in terms of actual damage. And quite frankly, the DPS you get on the daggers does not supplant the whip or the hammer, in my estimation. You know, I'm sure there are people who will disagree with that assessment, but I just did not like using the dagger. And as far as the other weapons, you'll get the coffin, which is basically like using a shield for your combat, because it can block. you can block, but it's also your primary attack was your shield back.
Hmm.
And the other one is your gun. And I got to be honest, I didn't think I would ever reference the game Amagon on this program or really anywhere, but here we are. Like, because it functions in a very similar capacity to the machine gun in Amagon. I might be the only one who's played this game,
On Earth.
but to it, yes, but to it, in the game Amagon, it's an NES platformer. Um, you actually get a machine gun with limited ammo. And when you run out of ammo, your only option is to use the gun as a makeshift club. Same deal here with the Mina the Hollower gun. You have limited ammo, and if you run out, you use it as a very awkward impromptu club. Yeah,
Insert
it's
joke
like,
about
I'll be
maybe I'm out of bullets but not out of options.
basically. I'm not exactly sure how the gun works because I never used it. I stuck mainly with the chain whip. Um, it was my old reliable. But really, the augmentation is around the sub weapon, the trinkets, as they call, which you get about 20. I forget the exact
The
count.
sub weapons, I think
And
there's
depending
only
on,
like 12.
well, they're called trinkets. Some of them are weapons. Some of them are items that help you in combat,
Wait, are you
like
saying
the
sidearms or trinkets?
yeah, sorry, sidearms. Trinkets are the like Zelda equipables,
Yeah.
and there are 50 of those.
Mm.
Um, and to continue the accessibility debate, once again, this is something that came up in the uh, interview proper, but it's actually like a link between worlds. Nothing is gated off completely.
Nothing is gated off, but there are things that you have to choose because a lot of zones you need a keyer to get into, and those are limited.
Yeah, and those are literally gated off. But here's the secret bit of accessibility. At least
Okay,
a
there are
bit later
13
on.
sidearms,
Yes.
according to the
Um,
manual. There's
yes.
actually a fairly
Um,
robust digital manual.
yeah, and it will tell you how to play, etc., etc., etc. But my point is, um, in terms of like the not the sidearms, but the trinket. Like there will be two shops of trinket. There's like I guess the more common ones, but there's also later on like somewhere like I want to say you beat two, maybe three dungeons,
There's a
and
lot of buildings in town that have two spark doors.
yeah, and one of this wasn't hidden behind a spark door.
Uh,
It's actually in the subterranean underpass. You just have to
uh,
leap to it. But there is a mouse shrew um, creature that will
mhm.
grab items from hard to access places called Feloni. I think that's what their name was. The point is, if you pay a certain amount, they will get the hard to reach items or hard to find items for you. But there are some caveats. The amount of time it will take to get an item will be, in game when you beat a tower. So you can't just like get all of the items all at once, like you can in Link Between Worlds, which was quite frankly the big mistake that Link Between Worlds did. Like, yeah, there was a rental system, what have you,
But
It's
nobody
just
actually but nobody actually only rented one thing.
right.
You
And
go out and
yeah,
grind rupees
there's
until
also,
you can until you can get all of them.
yeah. The point is, even if you grind bones here, and you can do that, it's still you will have to wait until you actually progress a bit into the game before you get all the items you bought from the hard shop. The regular trinket shop, you buy it and you get it. So um, it's not completely blowing things out of the water. Um, it's good to see that there are games that learn from Link Between Worlds mistakes. Right. Um, but yeah, in terms of the Souls likeness, it is very Souls like in terms of its structure. Once again, I postulated that on to the devs. They kind of downplayed it, but no, this is very standard Souls like. You fight, you clear an enemy until you get to a save point. You have limited heals. Your plasma vials are your Eustace flasks. It's all very in that mold. Um, no surprises there. It just thankfully it doesn't replicate the combat from Dark Souls. Um, it's just I think people are having a bit of a difficult time with the central mechanic, the burrowing, because the burrowing does take a bit of time to get used
Mm.
Yeah, it's not the
because
most
it's not
intuitive.
a lack of intuition is a bigger problem in this game, quite frankly. Other reviewers have covered it, and I will echo those sentiments. Like in the Nox Swamp, um, there is no indication you can burrow under the water, but you can't swim. That was just quite. You will accidentally stumble upon it.
Mm.
It's bad conveyance. Like they're absolutely something that should have been signposted to clue you in that you can actually swim under the deep water. Um, that's actually how I got directed to the third dungeon before the second. Because I thought I had to get something to actually get through the swamp. Um, because while there is no ostensible gatekeeping, there's still gatekeeping. Like a good example early game is the horse. Is the rideable horse toy. I forget what they call it in game, but that's functionally your Pegasus boots.
Mm.
It's the thing that will allow you to jump about 4 squares, and you can't really access that until a bit later. So I was thinking like I had to find the right trinket. Like there's also another place where you're gated off until you get a specific trinket where you can create platforms under yourself. It's the webbing trinket. That's actually one of the hard to get ones. So yeah, this game is not without issue. But when it works, um, it does sync quite well. It's just I think I got spoiled by the game Unsighted.
Mm.
Like that's going to be very much a me thing because, well, I don't think all that many people played Unsighted. Like enough people did where the developers making a sequel. Um, not sure if it's spiritual or otherwise, but um, it is a it is a top-down action adventure platforming game with different combat options, and honestly, I think that had much more fluidity. Like, look, there's no getting around it. The combat is a bit awkward and clunky. That comes down to using just the 4 cardinal direction. And
With,
yes, that
yes,
is very much
diagonals, but
yeah. But that also comes down to the weapons used and not used. You know what Mina doesn't have? A sword. Link has a sword that moves in arc, and thus can account for diagonal directionality in a way that Mina's arsenal cannot.
yeah, your
And that is
daggers are
frustrating.
straightforward daggers.
Yep. There is just not a lot of combat on the diagonal.
Mhm.
And that is rightfully being seen as a bit archaic.
Yeah.
Um,
I
if,
I definitely had that problem even with the demo where there was something that was literally diagonal to me, but I couldn't do anything with it.
yeah, and like I said, the devs, they mentioned the blind spot. That's all very intentional. I'm like, okay, intended or not, it's still clunky. No matter what weapon I used, for how long I used it, it never felt fully satisfying. And here's the thing: the whip has an upgrade that tries to counter that in a actually very classical Castlevania way. Um, it's the shake. Um, some of the Metroidvania ones, like Harmony of Dissonance, has the
You can hold your
whip.
whip and it stays out and you can spin it around.
Yep, and that's a second upgrade for the chain whip.
Which, to be fair, all of the
Un-
weapons have advanced things.
yeah, but some of them only have one upgrade. Some have
Okay.
two. It's actually a bit weird. Like the first upgrade for the Night Rain is actually an electrical attack that honestly kind of sucks because you actually have to hold down the X button to shock to use the electricity, and it's only in the head. Like, interesting implementation, kind of mediocre execution there. But the ultimate point is, yes, there are blind spots in the combat. No, I don't think they ended up being what Yacht Club um, wanted it to be. Uh, it's unfortunate because, like, people are, and I don't think there's an accessibility option to just magically turn on the diagonal, because I guarantee you, so many people would turn that on because that's a case of adhering to the classics is detracting from the experience. I think there's probably going to be a split in opinion on that. I'm in the camp that I see what you were going for. You told us what you were going for. I do not agree with it. It's like the combat just never 100% felt satisfying. But what's interesting to me is how much of the conversation is falling into combat. And what's not being discussed is the platform. Because this is another area where going into expecting a Zelda title, I think, is setting yourself up for disappointment. And yes,
Barring
I will
some of the
acknowledge
weirder parts of the Game Boy Zelda games.
I was about to acknowledge, yes, the Game Boy Zelda games had jumping in a way that other Zelda games didn't have.
And
But
they do
dear
have some
God,
weird jumping puzzles sometimes.
yes, but dear God, there is no Zelda title that had jumping like this. Like, no, you have platforming challenges abound. Sometimes, like some areas more than others. Like, honestly, like my favorite area of the game is the 6th area, the Starry Orrery. I think that's how that's pronounced.
Mm-hmm. Although you can get in there pretty early.
That's if you understand the mirror fast travel system.
Yep.
That's another place where people have been complaining about conveying. Because I actually don't agree, because they actually show you how to get into the mirror. Like, there's an early cutscene where you see, like, the mount, like a character push against the mirror and go through. Yeah, it takes a few seconds, but it's like, there was conveyance there. I will defend that one. I will not defend the deep sea burrowing. That had no indications that you could, or good conveyance that you could do it. I'm sorry. But my point is, like, the astral orrery, that is some jumping challenge stuff, like, out of a platforming title. I think that you could classify this game as a platformer, and you would be accurate. It's not just
It's just a platform with
yeah,
a very unusual perspective for a platformer.
yes, and also thankfully not a true isometric platformer. Like, we've talked about it before, but no, this is not an isometric platformer. This is not an isometric perspective.
Isometric means that north is to the upper right.
Yes, it has to be tilted.
Yeah.
This is top down, bird's
Boktai
eye
is
view.
isometric. This is not.
And it's not a distinction without a difference, because the difference is all of your fucking controls are tilted.
Either with respect to input not matching output, or with respect to not being able to move orthogonally on the fucking game map.
Yeah, we both have the same gripes about it. But isometric platforming does exist. Go play a Genesis title called Landstalker for a good example of how awkward and slippery it can be. Ugh. In fact, I actually talked Naka out of doing Landstalker for a Let's Play because of how bad it is. Like, ugh. Thankfully, this game doesn't do that shite. I guess it's awkward in the fact that it is top-down platforming from a 2D perspective. But I'll be honest, I enjoyed the platforming. It's actually my favorite part of this game.
Mm-hmm. I had a couple
that's
of
why
minor issues with sometimes when you're doing like a jumping puzzle and you need to make a sharp alteration from going south to going east, it can not work properly. But that might be my control or just me.
Mm.
Well, there is a bit of an issue with, once again, this is all right angles all the time. So you don't get the flexibility of 360 degrees of movement.
Right. So when you're adjusting, you have to adjust weirdly on a diagonal.
Yes. So it's, it's not without fault. It's not without blame. We haven't even gotten to the section that made me say, they're calling it stopping short of a masterpiece, and that is the area right outside the final boss. Like, dear God, if I could have asked why they included an auto scroll area, I would have.
Mm-hmm.
Because, dear God, is it awful. It's awful in all of the ways that auto scroll zones are. especially in platformers. Like, even Mario couldn't make auto-scrolling good. You know,
They were
it
generally
was the
my
part
least
I
favorite
always had.
levels. Yeah.
Yeah, like Super Mario Brothers 3 could not make that shit work. Nope. And this game couldn't either. Thankfully, it's just like the one section, and if you're having too many problems with it, you can turn on the accessibility options. I was just like, done. Turning off, I turned on the pit, don't fall into pits option. Don't take damage. Because I was just so done. It wasn't fun because the challenge isn't a skill issue. You know, it's I gotta wait for this fucking level to scroll properly to the point, and just I truly hated it.
Mm.
But one bad section does not does not crumble a game. Um, and there is still so much that we could cover. Like we still haven't talked about boss fights. Um, we haven't talked about the puzzles.
Mhm.
Um, but this review is already getting long enough.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I don't really want to spoil the puzzles. Like there are some ingenious puzzles. Like I really liked what they did in the third area, the forge, where you have to guide the lava to places. For example,
I
like
poked my nose into there, and that was interesting how it works.
I guess without too much
yeah.
spoiling, how open are the puzzles? Do you have to get a specific area in the level to do them, or are there multiple ways to go about them?
There's like one solution
Hmm.
um in terms of the puzzles.
So it's very
Like
Zelda style, where you need to get that area's MacGuffin to interact with its puzzle.
no, no, like they're actual puzzles. You
Hmm.
have to figure it out. Like there's
Hmm.
no there's very
The one,
little in the
the
way
one
of
I
getting
was
this.
talking about doesn't require anything other than your hollowing.
Hmm.
Yes, that's the point. Like this game is very like it's not gated off, which is why the Metroidvania guru called it a not Metroidvania, a Notravania, if you will. So, um, but like the bosses are they are also difficult, um, and some of them are multi-stage. Looking at you, the congealed. Won't spoil it, but that was my favorite slash least favorite
I was
boss.
about to say, with the name, take your guesses, boys and girls.
Like, and also the final boss was rather dramatic. Um, like I said, there's just so much to this game. Like we haven't talked about the graphics in detail or the music. I'm like, though I suppose I can just sum up is it's your typical yacht club games. Jake Kaufman, excellent. Uh, uh, very. I will say it is very much in the styling of Jake Kaufman. So it will. It sounds like Shovel Knight. It sounds like Gameoverse. To touch upon something else we covered recently that had Jake Kaufman in it. That kind of deal.
Hmm.
And just on and on it goes. But is this a modern day masterpiece? I would say tentatively yes. Like it may have a. I'm trying to think of like the thing that's coming up in conversation is how much of a sales ceiling this game has. Um, but I'm like, that's a kind of a side of what we're talking about here. In terms of what this game does and what it accomplishes, it is, for the most part, great. It's just, it has some problems with directionality that may sink it a notch or two. But otherwise, yeah, this is 7 years well spent. And given the early sales numbers, it does seem well on its way to securing Yacht Club to do a game number 3. I guess time will fully tell
Mm-hmm.
on that note. But I suppose now we've come to the final bit of conversation here, and that is pricing. Um, and indeed, pricing has actually come up quite a bit because, if you will, uh, Yacht Club is selling Mina the Hollower for 20 bone. Is this game worth 20 bones? Absolutely. Like, not even a second thought there. In fact, people are recognizing it as a bargain. And, that's been in the bigger Yacht Club conversation. Because, they could have covered, like there was another Bloomberg article about why this game is 20. Like, the entire dev team, everyone at Yacht Club thought this game was a $20 game. Like, truth be told, as somebody who evaluates games based off their price week in and week out, this is a $35 title easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just content wise, replayability, they could have charged more for it. Which, once again, that's actually something that, in terms of like the Shovel Knight, it being offered for such a bargain, and concerns over their future financial viability has come up. Like, why didn't they charge more for the Shovel Knight expansion? Because it was actually an obligation. I'm not sure how legally binding the Kickstarter goals were, but there was an obligation to provide I
think the answer
the
is not actually very, but still, if you don't have a good reason for not, like, in terms of legally binding, it's not super legally binding, but like the
Honor.
spirit of the law is people will be pissed off if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I suppose that the ultimate question here is this game of the year? Well, in terms of the larger conversation, holy fuck, it may not be even game of the month. Like, just going off of IGN's review of things, like Mina got a 10 out of 10, Forza Horizon 6 got a 10 out of 10, and a game called Mixtape got a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's been one of those banner year for video game releases
Okay,
already.
Yeah,
Like,
like we
as far
haven't
as
had
us,
a year this stacked since what, 2016, 2017?
a bit more than that, like 2022, 23, like
Mm,
a couple years ago, but it's been a while since we've gotten a year this stacked. And it's only half over.
yeah, as I see, it may ends tonight, so
Yeah. But yeah. Um I I would definitely say with reasonable safety that Mina the Hollower is going to appear on our tops list this
mhm,
year. But it's just, our review list looks very unlike other people's review list.
mhm,
I mean, like, how many other people are reviewing the other games that we're reviewing this week?
yeah,
Not many. Mina the Hollow is actually the outlier in that we are covering a game that is being talked about by a lot of outlets.
mhm, and that's because we
So,
became friends with the dev team.
yes. So, uh, still, um, high recommendations here. Not the highest. Like, because once again, it's still just that awkward and clunky directionality. I think just notches it down
Mhm. Like, if the fact,
a bit.
like, something like Mega Man where you can't shoot diagonally is something that pisses you off, this might also piss you off.
Yeah. Um. Right. So, any other questions, comments, or concerns before we close the book on Mina the Hollower
I
for the time being?
I don't think I got anything.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right. So that'll about do it for Mina the Hollower, and that'll about do it for this review session. So that means coming up on the week ahead. As a reminder, Moonhawk Studios Presents has entered its dormant phase. Um, it will be off until August. I know Mac wasn't exactly happy about that, but honestly, the reason why it had the 2 month gap hasn't happened until now is because his show does 21 episodes, we do 26. That's 5 weeks difference, plus the 2 weeks we take this show off. That's 7 weeks.
Mhm.
Like,
And also, we need a
anyway,
break.
yes. And like, if Mac wants to adjust things, it's kind of on him, but that's a conversation outside of what we're talking about here. Um, on Wednesday, June 3rd, we will be welcoming Alex Yosef of Acclaim. Um, as mentioned with our first review, um, Acclaim is back as an indie game publisher. In fact, they sent us 4 games to review. We've already reviewed 2 of them. The other 2 are going to be coming up in the weeks ahead, like literally this week and next week. More on that as it comes. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the revived Acclaim, their current titles, and we're going to talk about the legacy
Mhm.
because I'm very much wondering why the Acclaim name has been revived again, especially since they can't actually use that legacy
Mhm.
because they don't own it.
Yeah.
The hell, I know where most of the Acclaim games lie, and it's with Throwback Entertainment
Mhm.
or Night Dive
Yeah.
Studio. Um, you know, this question actually came up. The last time it came up because we talked to the previous owners of the Acclaim trade name. That was completely unintentional. It's just it came up. So
Mhm.
still, it's there's going to be quite a few games covered here, not just the 4 that they've already published, but at least 2 they want to talk about. In fact, they have to send me the demo codes for those. They still haven't yet. I'll have to ping them about that tomorrow. Anyway, we do have a Friday show as well. On Friday, June 5th, we'll be welcoming Mark Robinson of Space Lion Studios. Let's see if I can get the right page here. Um, like project. Is this the right Space Lion Studios? Um, maybe. Like, I know. I think this is the wrong space because this isn't looking like what I want. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Yeah, that was there's more than one Space Lion studio. Space Lion Studios, founded in 2023 and based out of Ireland. Space Lion Studios is a 2-man operation currently working on its debut title with the intention of becoming an established indie studio in Dublin. We've been getting a lot of Irish studios lately. Not complaining,
Mhm.
just noting it. We are heavily influenced by a range of puzzle games from the 90s and aim to bring ideas from this era into the 21st century for old and new players alike. Which is weird because their first title is a game called. I'm going to have to ask how they pronounce this because it's literally just it's X's, I think. It's AXYZ. I think they are being cute with the the word axes. A vaporware styled gravity switching puzzle game.
Vaporwave, surely.
Odd because yeah. Odd that they say 90s influence because a vaporwave is very 80s influence. But we'll talk about that on Friday. So, with that in mind, until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.